You walk into the DMV expecting the same routine you've followed for decades. A quick line, a simple vision check, a new photo, and you're on your way. But this time, something feels different. The questions aren't the same. The forms don't look familiar. The clerk pauses, studies your file a bit longer than expected, and suddenly you're being told you need additional testing and possibly even medical clearance. Just like that, what should have taken 20 minutes turns into hours. And even worse, you leave without a renewed license. No warning, no preparation, just confusion and a growing question in your mind. What changed? Because something has changed. Quietly across the country, new DMV rules have been rolling out. Rules that are catching drivers over 65 completely off guard. And here's the problem. Most people don't find out until they're already standing at the counter, under pressure, with no time to fix it. Some are being asked to pass new types of vision tests they've never seen before. Others are losing access to online renewals entirely, and in some cases, people are being told they now need a doctor's approval just to keep driving. The worst part is this. One small misstep, one missing document, one failed screening, and you could be sent home without your license, stuck in a process you didn't even know existed. Hi, I'm Timothy, and today I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening so you're not one of those people caught off guard. Because this isn't about fear, it's about preparation. In the next few minutes, I'll break down the 3 major rule changes affecting drivers over 65, explain why they're happening, and most importantly, show you exactly what you can do right now to avoid delays, extra costs, or losing your driving privileges altogether. And there's one change in particular that's surprising a lot of people, not because it's new, but because of how much stricter it has become. Once you understand that, everything else starts to make a lot more sense. And it could save you a major headache the next time you walk into the DMV. Before we get into the first rule, it's important to understand why all of this is happening in the first place. Because without that context, these changes can feel random, frustrating, even unfair. The reality is they didn't come out of nowhere. Over the past several years, transportation and safety agencies have been tracking patterns in roadway incidents, and one trend started getting attention. Certain types of accidents were increasing among older drivers, particularly those over 75. Not reckless driving, not speeding, but situations tied to things like reduced peripheral vision, slower reaction time, and difficulty seeing clearly in low-light conditions. Now, that doesn't mean older drivers are unsafe. In fact, many are far more experienced and cautious than younger drivers. But from a policy standpoint, states began looking at how to reduce risk in very specific scenarios. And that's what led to the changes you're seeing now. So when you walk into the DMV and things feel stricter, it's not arbitrary. It's part of a broader shift toward more detailed evaluations. And that brings us to the first major rule change, which is catching more people off guard than anything else right now. Enhanced vision screening. If you're thinking, I've been doing vision tests at the DMV for years, you're absolutely right. But what's changed is the depth of that test. It's no longer just about reading letters or numbers off a chart. In many states, especially for drivers over 65, the screening now goes several layers deeper. They're evaluating your peripheral vision, how well you can see things off to the side without turning your head. They're measuring depth perception, which affects how accurately you judge distance between vehicles. And there's one category that's becoming especially important: contrast sensitivity. That's your ability to distinguish objects from their background, particularly in low-light situations. Think about driving at dusk in the rain, or spotting a pedestrian wearing dark clothing at night. You might technically have good vision on a standard chart, but if your contrast sensitivity is reduced, those real-world situations become much more dangerous. And that's exactly what these new screenings are designed to detect. Here's where this becomes very real for you. If you don't pass one part of this enhanced screening, you won't necessarily walk out with a renewed license that day. Instead, you may be given a conditional approval, meaning you'll have to schedule a full eye exam with a licensed specialist, have them complete specific paperwork, and submit it back to the DMV before your renewal can be finalized. That process can take weeks. It can involve extra appointments, additional costs, and far more time than most people expect. And this is where many people run into trouble. They assume it'll be quick, show up unprepared, and then get stuck in a delay they could have avoided entirely. So here's the practical move that makes all the difference. Don't let the DMV be the first place your vision gets tested. If your license renewal is coming up within the next few months, schedule a comprehensive eye exam ahead of time. Ask specifically about peripheral vision and contrast sensitivity. If there's an issue, you'll have time to address it, whether that's updated lenses or treatment, before it becomes a problem at the counter. That one step alone can turn a stressful, uncertain experience into a smooth, predictable one. Now, as impactful as this vision rule is, it's only the first piece of the puzzle. The second change is the one that's quietly reshaping the entire renewal process. And for many people, it's turning what used to be simple into something far more demanding. The second rule change is where the experience really starts to shift. For years, many drivers got used to the convenience of renewing their license online or through the mail. No lines, no waiting rooms, no rearranging your entire day. But for drivers over 65, that convenience is disappearing in a growing number of states. More and more states are now requiring in-person renewal once you reach a certain age. And in some places, that doesn't just mean showing up, it also means doing it more often. Instead of renewing every 8 years, you might now be required to renew every 4 years or even every 2. That's a major shift, especially when you factor in travel time, wait times, and the energy it takes to go through the entire process. And it's not just about being physically present. When you walk into the DMV now, you're expected to come fully prepared, and the margin for error is smaller than it used to be. You'll typically need multiple forms of identification: your current license, proof of residency like a recent utility bill or bank statement, and sometimes additional documents like a social security card or passport. Here's where people get tripped up. What counts as acceptable proof can vary, and something as simple as bringing the wrong type of document can mean getting turned away and having to start all over again. But there's another layer to this that most people don't realize, and it's one of the biggest reasons this rule matters so much. During in-person renewals, DMV staff are now trained to make informal observations. They're not just processing paperwork, they're paying attention. They're noticing how you move, how you respond to questions, whether you seem confused by instructions, or if you're having difficulty completing forms. It's subtle, but it's intentional. If something raises concern, they have the authority to require additional steps before approving your license. That could mean taking a road test, even if you haven't taken one in decades. It could mean getting medical clearance from your doctor. In some cases, it could even mean restrictions placed on when or where you're allowed to drive. This isn't about catching people, it's about assessment. But if you don't know what's happening, it can feel exactly like that. So here's how you stay ahead of it. Treat your DMV visit as something you prepare for, not something you squeeze into your day. Bring every required document in an organized folder. Give yourself extra time so you're not rushed or stressed. Answer questions clearly and take your time filling out forms. And if you use any kind of mobility support, use it confidently. It's far better to be seen moving safely than struggling without assistance. Because when you approach it prepared and composed, the entire experience changes. You're no longer reacting, you're in control. Now, as impactful as this second rule is, the third one is where things become much more personal. This is the rule that's creating the most confusion, the most delays, and in some cases, the most difficult decisions. Because now, it's not just the DMV evaluating you, it's your doctor. In a growing number of states, drivers over a certain age, often 70 or 75, are now required to submit medical certification as part of their license renewal. And this isn't just a quick note saying you're in good health. It's a detailed, state-issued form that your physician must complete, addressing specific aspects of your physical and cognitive condition and how they relate to your ability to drive safely. They're evaluating conditions like diabetes, especially if there's a risk of low blood sugar episodes. Cardiovascular issues such as a history of heart attack or stroke. Neurological concerns including memory issues or early cognitive decline. Sleep disorders. Medications that may cause drowsiness, and even anxiety or pain treatments that could affect reaction time. It's thorough and it's taken seriously. And here's the key point. Your doctor is legally and ethically responsible for what they put on that form. That means they're not going to simply sign off unless they're confident in your ability to drive safely. If they have concerns, they're required to document them, and that can lead to additional steps, restrictions, or closer monitoring from the DMV. This is where many people feel blindsided. You might feel perfectly capable behind the wheel. You might have managed the condition for years without any issues, but if something on that form raises a flag, your renewal process can quickly become far more complicated than expected. So the smartest way to handle this is to be proactive. Don't wait until the DMV tells you that you need medical clearance. If your state requires it, or even if you're unsure, schedule a dedicated appointment with your doctor ahead of time. Let them know exactly what the form is for. Give them the space to evaluate properly and have an open, honest conversation about your driving. If concerns come up, don't treat it as a dead end. Ask questions. Find out what can be improved or managed. In many cases, there are solutions. Adjusting medication timing, updating vision prescriptions, or limiting driving to certain conditions like daytime hours. The goal isn't to take away your independence. It's to preserve it safely for as long as possible. And when you approach it that way, the process becomes far less intimidating and far more manageable. Now, before you start worrying that all of these rules apply to you exactly as described, there's something important to understand. These changes are not identical across the country. Every state runs its own DMV system, which means the details, how strict the vision test is, when in-person renewal is required, whether medical certification applies, can vary depending on where you live. That's why relying on secondhand information can lead to problems. What matters isn't what's happening broadly, it's what applies specifically to you. And once you understand that, the next step is simple. You verify. Because the people who run into problems are usually the ones who walk in assuming it will be business as usual. By the time they realize something has changed, it's too late to fix anything quickly. So take a few minutes now. Check your state's requirements. Look at your license expiration date. Start preparing early. Gather your documents. Schedule any appointments you might need, because when the time comes, you won't be guessing. You won't be scrambling. You'll be ready. And that's how you protect not just your license, but your independence, your confidence, and your peace of mind every time you get behind the wheel.